you, buddy.
Love you.
Have a good day.
I love you too. Bye.
Bye, buddy.
Bye.
Lifting family, welcome back. This video is actually going to be a update video. And so I had done an update video on the cap barbell that I have, and now what I wanted to do was give a update as well as more of a review style on my power rack that I had done a while ago, and some people were a little bit disappointed that it was more of an overview than anything. Yeah. This update is actually coming several years later. I mean, I believe that I bought that power rack in like 2014, and I didn't actually assemble it until we had moved. I've had this power rack for a while. I've actively used it for over 4 years now. So when we had moved at the end of 2014. And now that it's June 1st, actually, of 2019, I've been using that pretty much every week, consistently, each week since that time. So in terms of a consistency point, I'm just saying that I may have had a few off weeks during that point, just because I may have been deloading or just taken a complete week off during that period. So having said all that, in terms of the update, overall held up very, very well. I've actually been able to make some additional purchases for this power rack, not necessarily to shore it up in terms of its durability, but just I've bought a multi-grip pull-up attachment for the power rack itself, just because I like the versatility of a neutral grip pull-up rather than just a traditional pronated or supinated grip pull-up that would then just allow me some more versatility with that type of movement and make it a little bit easier on my shoulders. I also was able to purchase some additional J-cups. I would definitely recommend getting the J-cups. J-cups are pretty more common now, and so that's definitely something that if you were to get these, I would make sure that you definitely get an upgrade to the J-cups, just because the bar tends to roll a bit further on these, and that can get a little bit more uncomfortable as time goes on, just because the longer lever that you would have, the more potential that you'd have for those to bend, and that can definitely be problematic. So J-cups would be the recommendation here in terms of the update for the power rack itself. Outside of that, I would also make sure that you get a power rack that has plate holders so that you can either bolt down the power rack, so you'd want something where you'd be able to lag that to the floor, or the plate holders essentially in the back that basically right now I've got cement blocks on those, just because that's something that I don't have to use extra weight plates for. Usually the 35s end up being something that gets thrown on there, but these work out really well for me. I've found that it's really held up well. The only other things that I've really done to it are just make line markers in terms of making it easier for myself to adjust from left to right side on the power rack, and just make sure that the setup goes a little bit smoother with that. So beyond that, again, it's held up really, really well. It's been unbolted and bolted back together a few times. It's been moved around my basement a few different times, and it's been moved from location to location a few different times. So overall, I'm very, very happy with this one. The only other thing that I'd note that I've been kind of trying to note within this review is just that with different styles of power racks that you get, especially when it comes to a budget power rack like this, just make sure that on the uprights of it, you want to make sure that there's a flat plate that's on the bottom. So the bolts that actually bolt down through that flat plate into the base of the power rack itself, if those are missing somehow, you'll want to make sure that you forego that. The ones where it actually has like a clasp style setup to the power rack, that is then going to allow that upright to kind of sway back and forth a little bit. That can become problematic for obvious reasons, and so you really want to make sure that you get something that has a bottom plate on that. Outside of that, 5-star to 5-star. I mean, this power rack cost me, I believe, right around $300 shipped overall at the beginning, and I think right now you can get a comparable T2 Titan tall power rack that's exactly like this. That's actually where I got the additional components to the power rack itself. And I also got the dumbbell holders that have been just incredibly useful. That also was for the T2 power rack, but I would go with the tall version, not the short version, unless you've got the need for a short version given your ceiling height. I would definitely go for the T2 tall version, or there's a Rep power rack. I believe it's the Rep 1000 or 1100, and I'll make sure that I link those down below, just because this original power rack, the seller seems to either have gone away from Amazon or has gone out completely, but these power racks are fairly similar to each other. Body Solid has one as well through their Powerline series, and they're all fairly similar, but just again, make sure that you note the specifics of what I had just noted on the uprights of the power rack itself. Definitely pick one of these up if you're looking for something in that range. If you need something that's much more heavy duty, if you're someone that is going to be bench pressing 400 plus pounds and squatting 500 to 600 pounds consistently, I would probably go towards that higher end power rack, just because the thicker gauge steel is going to feel a little bit more comfortable. This one, it's not that it really just moves a whole bunch, but in time I would feel that the steel would start to flex a little bit with those higher weights. I mean, I was at a point consistently squatting over 400 and benching over 300, and I did not have an issue with that, but that is also something where, again, I've had good managed care with this, so that is definitely something that can play a factor. So 5-star to 5-star for my uses, and again with those specific notes. That is all. Please remember to click that thumbs up button. I appreciate all of your support there. Comment below if you have any questions or concerns. As always, remember to subscribe. Subscribers, I appreciate all of you. Outside of that, as always, thank you for watching and keep pushing.